some of you guys might remember this particular swing arm. About 3 years ago, I did a weld repair on this chain guide here, where the robot that originally welded it from the factory pretty much missed, and then the customer hit something while he was out riding and just plinked it right off of there. It broke again, and this time I can't blame the robot because it was my welds that broke, and what the customer had to say about it, well, I'll share that with you afterwards. So if you want to see me fix this thing again, stick around. You should do that. Thanks. Voiceover Justin here, because I don't feel like beating off a horse. I mean, beating a dead horse. I'm not even going to edit that out. But the thing is I'm doing this repair the exact same way as I did, 3 years ago. So we're just going to brush right over this again. First step is to grab an 80 grit flat disc, and we're just going to take down the weld. Just a tiny bit, right? We're not going to put a lot of force into it or anything else like that. Don't want to dig into the swing arm. I just want to remove what is of the existing weld. I'm going to let the flat disc do all the work, not my muscles. The same rule applies to the actual chain guide bracket thingy that fell off of there. I got to remove all the old weld, but I'm going to remove it from only one side to start off with. And again, I'll show you all of that, the reason why, and explain that in a little bit. Once the old weld is gone with the flat disc, we're going to sand everything nice and smooth with a random orbit sander, and this is also with 80 grit paper. This is mostly going to get everything nice and flush, get any kind of grooves or pitting out, and it removes the grinding marks. Next, I'm going to grab a hold of my Ingersoll Rand polisher with a red surface prep pad. This tool I can never ever say enough about. It is the most awesome friggin' mix between a small grinder and your 4.5 inch grinder. I stick everything to this thing and I use the crap out of it, so trust me, go out and buy one. It is so friggin' awesome. But this is going to get rid of all the sanding marks and kind of polish it up a little bit. That's why I'm using it. And finally, just like 3 years ago, I'm going to use the exact same tool from 3 years ago, and we're going to put a nice finish back down on this swing arm. Now, I know it's all beat to smash, and I mentioned this in the last video when I did this, 3 years ago, but it's a little extra step goes a long way. So if you put this nice finish work on it, it makes your repair look even better. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with taking a little bit of pride in your work.
That's a damn rare thing these days.
Let's also not forget that we need to wipe everything down in acetone really well. This is going to be with a surface prep pad and some acetone on the swing arm, as well as the part, followed by a rag with some acetone on it until it's looking spiffy. Okay. I'm not entirely too sure if I made it very clear in the last episode about this, where I talked about why I only ground down and prepped up one side first and left the other broken weld on the other side. So when a weld breaks, or when it snaps apart, it actually fractures, and it doesn't leave like a perfectly smooth cut line. It's actually very jagged and rough, and those little pieces of that weld where it found its way through that path will create what we call a mechanical lock. Or if you put it in the case like this, it only goes on one way and it snaps itself into place, creating what we might consider a register, if you will. So if I take this piece and I snap it down into place, and we find a way to hold it there while I get a tack and a weld down on this side, then we know it's going to line up exactly where it needs to line up, just like before. So it's not going to move or change the location of anything. And then once that weld is done, I can go in, cut the back side out, prep all that up, and then weld that back together. But there is a slight problem that I just realized and I don't have the time to remedy. And that is that I am out completely of MAP gas on my torch, so I can't use that on a preheat. Luckily, Ingersoll Rand just recently sent out this cordless heat gun, which is all digitally controlled, and amazing that it, even when you switch from high to low, it actually stores the temperature that you last had it in. It's really cool. Digital display, the whole works. I'm kind of, as always, blown away by Ingersoll Rand and the new stuff that they keep on coming out with. And again, these batteries last forever. So I'm just going to set this up real quick here, and we'll see if it gets up to temp while I set the welder up. Now, I'm not going to go ham on these weld settings because settings are for microwaves, but I've got 150 amps on tap, in which case I can use the foot pedal for. 32% balance because we got everything looking all clean and nice. And today I think my magic sauce on the frequency is going to be 90 hertz because that's just where I like it. I do kind of want it to dig in a little bit, and whatever. It doesn't necessarily matter. Also outfitted with a number 5 standard cup, 3 30-second laser tungsten, roughly 15 CFH of argon. Okay. That's my welder setup. I can feel that. Just gonna do a quick little autogenous tack, and then we'll go in for the arc shot. So it may not be extremely noticeable to you right now unless you've got a super keen eye on this. So let me jump in and punch in and enhance it. There we go. Check out all the trash that's floating through this thing. You saw how well I cleaned it, and you know, that's pretty typical, but something is definitely not right with this. I don't know what it is. I probably should have stopped, but at the same time, you know, I was just powering through it. And of course, you'll see in a second here, I also overheated it somehow. Okay, there's quite a bit of trash in that, even after cleaning it up. I don't really know why. So just to dispel anything or kind of figure it out there, if that's just garbage floating from the part itself, I don't know. I got a fresh coupon here or a piece of scrap. I'm gonna throw down a few welds and just see if it's the part or if it's maybe something wrong with, I don't know, my setup or something. Who knows? So we can just kind of blast on through this. I don't need to make you watch all of it or whatever, but I ran a couple of tests, couple of passes here and there, randomness, exact same settings and everything else, obviously. Didn't change a single thing, and you know, here's the result that I get out of it. So admittedly, I am a little bit rusty here, but there's not a whole lot of trash that's coming out like that is, so I'm going to suggest that's something in the part that maybe didn't get cleaned up, or who knows, but oh well. I'll, you know, brush it off and nobody will ever know, right? Yeah, let's do the other side. Again, in the event that you didn't watch the video from 3 years ago, thanks for nothing, but I am making the exact same video as I did 3 years ago. You know, so we'll just briefly run through this yet again here. We've got to chase out the old weld that's still sitting on that part, and I'm going to start with a cutoff wheel. The cutoff wheel itself is super thin, so it allows me to get down into that root where the two pieces meet or match up, and I want to dig this just a little bit deeper just to make sure that we've got enough of that old weld coming out of it. I don't want to cut, obviously, too far or too deep into it. So you just got to kind of take your time. With the meat of it all cut out, I'm going to chase around the edges with the 80 grit flat disc, and of course, once again, I'm going to bust out my little Ingersoll Rand polisher because I absolutely love this little tool. And with the medium prep pad, we're just gonna, you know, kind of polish it up, chase it all down. In addition to all of that, I'm also going to wire wheel it. This is gonna get it, you know, just a little bit extra stuff maybe that might be lodged in there, kind of out of it. That's a step that I didn't do before hitting it with the acetone, but I'm gonna try it now, see if it makes much of a difference. I got a feeling that this part is just so friggin' old and, you know, sandblasted and beat to death and whatnot. I mean, hell, I fixed it twice in the last 3 years. So, you know, it's worth a shot, right? We're just going to try everything we can and then hope for the best. This side seems just as trashy. Well, see if I can line this one up for an arc shot this time. I think I could probably get it. I don't know. We'll see. If not, we're just going to skip ahead in time and say, oh yeah, it's done, you know. Probably get it this way. Get the camera like right over here. We'll see. You know how I like to talk to you guys about practice and how important that is for welding? You know, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little out of practice here, and when I try to do the initial tack on one side of the swing arm, then whip my hand around to the other side of the swing arm, I got humbled. Right here, the filler wire got stuck, and then I got the big old boogie sitting on the end of it. I'm like, no, that's okay, I'll just, you know, flick that out of the way and keep the arc lit and see if I can still try to show off. But look to the left of that pool, look at that nice little hole. So now I'm stuck here just trying to pump this thing full of filler, which is going to make it overheat, you know, and just try to make my way through it. And in all honesty, I should just cut bait. But at the end of the day, I know it's not going to really hurt anything. You know, I mean, it's just, it is what it is kind of thing, you know. I'm really only me to blame here, not necessarily the part. But, you know, Combination of a lot of things. I got it done. It's still just as trashy as the last one. Okay. While I clean this up, let's talk about a couple of things, because I know a lot of people have some questions, and of course, you wouldn't believe what the customer told me. But first and foremost, I know a big question is, why do I not weld the thing all the way around? And the answer is actually really simple, and that is because this swing arm is no longer available. In other words, you can't buy another one unless you buy an entirely new dirt bike, or maybe somebody will have one up for sale or whatever. If it breaks again, I want it to break the exact same way, so that way I can fix and repair it the exact same way. Maybe in another 3 years, hopefully never again. So I don't want to overweld it, because if it, we want to be able to put it back together again, the same as it did before. Basically, it's that simple. You guys wouldn't believe what the customer actually said to me. Like, this is crazy. He drops this thing off, and he says this was his fault. He'd broken it just the same as he'd broken it 3 years ago. And even though it was my welds that broke, he said, hey, just let me know how much I owe you. I was like, wow, okay. I did reassure him I'm not going to charge him for this one. And, this is kind of one of those things where you could, it's helpful for you to know and to learn about or whatever, right? Having an honest customer is the coolest thing in the world, right? I've been in many scenarios where somebody blamed me for, a failed weld on a repair where they did something very, very similar to it. And, they'd throw a fit and, get mad or whatever the case is and say it's all my fault and everything else like that. But it's like those people at Costco that return their Christmas trees after the first of the year. It's that type of person. I've been through that I don't know how many times already, in the last 20 some odd years. And no matter what, if I have a cool customer or if I have somebody that's a complete dick, I'll still do the repair for free, right? It's just good business. The good customer is still going to come back and bring other things. The bad customer is still going to come back and do the same thing again, but they'll be satisfied at least this time and not leave you a bad review. The other thing here, I'm just going to say it flat out. This customer owes me absolutely nothing for this repair. Originally, it took me about 20 minutes. The second time, it took me about 20 minutes. Like today, that's about how much work I actually have involved in this one. And I charged the customer originally like $40 for that 20 minutes, which is what I get, but I also made a video about it. And that payment, combined with that video, has paid me to date almost $800 for this repair that took 20 minutes to do. Literally, customer owes me nothing. So, hope you guys learned something on this one. Hope you enjoyed seeing my broken welds and how I fixed them. I'll see you guys in the next episode.
Nice dissolve.